Good morning all. It is currently the 4th of February, current date of recording. I am back at Cottage. I have returned from Gran Canaria. I had the most amazing time away, but I am going through those holiday blues, so it is what it is, but I need to get a routine back in my life again, and I'm glad to be back into the garden. There's quite a lot to be done this weekend. I'm hoping to plant a hedge. My parents asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I said a hedge, so I'm hopefully going to pick that up this weekend and get that planted, and that's something I will talk to you about in more detail. It's going to be located at the upper half of the garden, and it's going to be a continuation of the log wall. Currently the log wall finishes where the steps join down to zone 2, and that's great. But I often felt I kind of want like a room divider. I want the lawn broken up slightly. I feel the lawn in the winter time more so is such a large continuation of grass, and it could be better divided, because at the bottom of the drive looking up, especially in the winter months when all the deciduous trees have no leaves, you're sort of seeing too much space at one time. So I'm going to try and create like a room divider effect, so it'll sort of finish that an upper room and a lower room, which sort of is part of the terraced levels of this garden. What else am I doing this weekend? I hope to sow some seeds. It is quite early to be sowing seeds yet, and again I will go into that in more detail later. This will only be seeds that I'm sowing indoors. It will not be seeds that I'm actively sowing in the tunnel, because I think everybody sort of sees a wee bit of additional daylight and they're like, right, let's do this. But going by the Met Office weather forecast, it is to be quite cold some nights next week, so therefore this will only be sown from the comfort of the lounge. So today is Sunday 5th of February. I am testing out my new mic, which is located here. Probably shouldn't have worn black because it's probably not showing up in the footage. But yeah, hopefully it is my first attempt at this. The sound quality going forward for audios will be much better. But I say this is my first run, so fingers crossed that it is working, because I haven't had a chance yet to do a test run, so this is the test run. Temperature today is currently 2 degrees and it's 9:45. So quite chilly and not the ideal temperature for sowing seeds. Yesterday afternoon, in between getting my hedging sorted, this is the hedge in here. It's bare root yew hedging, and obviously, as a lot of you know, this account is called Cottage and it is based around the yew tree. Ironically, there's a lot of beech hedging around this property, which is fantastic, because I love beech hedging, because it goes that lovely sort of coppery, well, copper beech obviously, but it goes that lovely copper colour in the wintertime, which I'm absolutely obsessed with, and then it's just a normal green hedge throughout the summer. But I thought it would be nice to have a yew hedge somewhere, because it will be a nice contrast, that sort of dark emerald green against the copper. So I will get that finished, hopefully plant it this afternoon, preferably after noon, because I kind of want the temperatures to build up till about just above 6 degrees before planting. Not that it makes too much of a difference, but if the ground is frozen, I would prefer not to plant. These are some of the seeds then I have been soaking. These are Bergmansia seeds, and you can see there's 3 floating now on the top. I'll discard those, and the rest have sunk to the bottom, so I know that those are viable seeds. Now, what I would say about Bergmansia seeds in the past was, when I put them in water, they all floated. So because they're such a light seed, it does take a while to work out which ones are viable and which ones aren't. So I've left them overnight, and now I can confirm obviously the ones at the bottom are, viable, and these ones here are, going to be binned. But you can see, yeah, I've always noticed this when you sow Bergmansias, the water goes from clear to this weird sort of bluey, petrol-y sort of colour. It's very strange. I don't know what's in them, but yeah, that always happens. And then in this little cup here, I have Cerinthe. So two completely different plants. So we're going from very tropical style of planting till very traditional English garden style of planting. So yeah, two completely different seeds. The Cerinthe will not need the same conditions obviously as the Bergmansia, and that sort of brings me on to my next point. So yesterday after I power washed my seed trays, and I just got them sort of roughly cleaned up for the year, I filled all my trays and pots here with compost. The difference between seed trays and pots is obviously in the seed trays I use the charged iodine CD60, and that gives me 60 cells, which is fantastic because 60 cells is a lot, and I can sow in batches of 20 or half and half and do 30 and 30 if you have two seeds that sort of have the same desirability and temperatures. So that's great. Or you can just sow a full batch of 60 if you really love something. That's what I love about that. Whereas a pot will have more compost in it, and it's a higher expenditure if you're doing this kind of on like a nursery basis, which I'm not, but I'm trying to be as efficient as possible with my compost and reduce waste where possible. So you're probably asking, why would I use a pot that has a bigger surface area and holds more compost over the seed tray? If we take this Ulex, for example, I would gladly sow it in seed tray. However, it does not like root disturbance, and it needs kind of more space for the roots to grow. So what I would find is it would probably germinate fine in the seed tray. However, it's a tiny little plug, and then I have to get that out and move it in somewhere else, which is fine, and I could probably do it if I was careful, but you run the risk of obviously root disturbance, and then you don't know, will it tick better in its next pot. Where if I successfully sow it in the pot to start with, there's going to be a lot of space there for it for a while. I don't necessarily have to pot it straight away after it's germinated. It can be happy there maybe for a couple of months, and then obviously inevitably when it comes to repotting, what I usually do at that point is go maybe one pot size up and sort of do like an upside down sandcastle, where I would put this pot in a bigger pot and fill around it with compost, and then ease this one out, tip it out, nudge it back in, and give it a sort of a shake, and hopefully there's not too much disturbance that way. So that is my theory. Now, obviously, it's February, I've mentioned, it's cold. Why would I be sowing seeds at this time of the year? After telling myself last year I was never going to sow seeds as early again in my life, which technically I'm not. What I am doing today is sowing seeds, for example, like Anthorhinum. I've got bananas or these Bergmansias that take time, that are going to have a long germination time. Some of these seeds can maybe take up to 6 weeks before even germinating, could be longer, could be 8 weeks. And I'll be sowing them from the comfort of the lounge, where I can keep control of them, and they'll be in an indoor environment, and they will be within a propagator. I'm not going to be sowing too much here in the greenhouse yet, with exception to the Cerinthe, which I know is a much more robust seed, and provided it just has the cover of the greenhouse and it's frost free, the Cerinthe doesn't really need to rely on a heat mat or a propagator. Within the confinements of the space, it'll happily grow. It's still slightly warmer in here through the day than what it would be outside, and that's fine. And it's also slightly warmer in here during the evening time than again it would be outside, and if needs be I can cover it with some horticulture fleece. Also going to sow peppers today. Peppers are obviously just an annual veg, but they require a longer grow season. So their germination phase is about the same as most seeds, and with vegetable seeds you'll find it could be propagated within 10 days, 15 days at the very, very most. But peppers need a long growing season. So unlike a tomato where you could germinated in the first week of May, and it could be fully fruiting by the first week of July or even sooner. Peppers would still have that same germination turnout phase. However, their production, if you're obviously growing it for food, is going to be much slower. So therefore, if you sow peppers now, if you sow chilies now, you're germinating them at the same rate as they would do at any other stage of the year, but you're giving them a longer growing season because they will grow a long time before they provide you with any peppers, any chilies. So yeah, those will be, again, growing indoors. They'll not be growing within the confinements of the greenhouse. So yeah, I will keep you posted on all these developments.